Dear colleagues, this is the video for November. So let's see what we have learned and the knowledge we have gained from the pandemic times. What have teachers learned from teaching in pandemic times? How much has our teaching evolved and developed because of the pandemic? How much of that learning will be adopted in our regular lessons? Maybe we have learned a lot of skills, tools that now we want to bring them to our regular lessons. So let's see. I think that teachers learned a lot about technology. Teachers have discovered lots of tools, how to use maybe the school's platform, how to use maybe the Stanford platform, the resources they have online. So I think we have learned a lot about technology. And I believe the learners also have learned a lot about how to work online, how to send you, homework or assignments, how to take pictures and share the pictures with the group of learners. So we have learned a lot. We have developed lots of skills in technology related stuff. We have also learned how to manage our time more effectively and how we are going to use that time wisely in the classroom, how much time we're going to devote to oral work, how much time we're going to devote to written work, how much time we're going to devote to homework and maybe asynchronous assignments. We have learned a lot about diverse context. We don't need the learners to be in the classroom so they learn. So we have learned that. We learned that the learners are going to learn wherever they are if our proposal is good enough. So don't worry about this thing of having the learners, in the classroom, sitting still. No, it's not necessary. And we have learned that. We have learned a lot about exposing the learners to language. The more we expose the learners to authentic language, the more they're going to get, the more they're going to understand, and the more vocabulary they're going to learn in order to be able to produce it. So we need to expose our learners to good quality of language every time possible. We have learned that not all students work in the same way, that some students actually were, let's say, doing beautifully online, much better than in the classroom. Some others really needed to go back to the classroom, needed to go back to face-to-face lessons. And we learned how to adapt the different assignments to the different learners because we have the chance through online teaching to send each learner a differentiated assignment. Why don't we do that in class, right? When we have them face-to-face. And we learned about the relevance of socialization in our teaching, how much the learners need to work collaboratively and in teams, and that sometimes it was nice to do it through breakout rooms or classrooms that we can, mini groups that we could design online, but it's good to have them back in the classroom and see how they work in teams much better, right? We have learned that parent involvement is necessary. We have learned that when parents get involved, they get to understand the approach, they get to understand the proposal, they get to understand what we expect from the children and what the children might enjoy and what they might struggle with. So it's good for parents to understand what we are trying to do in the classroom and what their learners are going through. And we have learned that there is a very, very, very important role that we have in the construction of citizenship, teaching our students to be polite, teaching our students to behave nicely because there are other human beings in the world. So it's good for us to acknowledge all the things the pandemic has brought to us, right? And another thing we need to think about, apart from what we have learned, is how much our teaching has evolved because of the pandemic. We have decided that many things what we used to do are not that relevant, and maybe other ways of teaching are possible. For example, Sending homework or sending asynchronous assignments? What's the difference? We'll see. So how much of the learning will be brought to our classroom, right? We are going to be using technology more often in class, that's for sure. We're going to be using asynchronous assignments, of course. So we're going to be using maybe the school's platform to, set there the assignments for the learners to go through that assignment through the week, right? When they find the time in order to meet the deadline that we have established. It's not a homework from today for tomorrow, but it's an assignment they have to complete through maybe 1 week. And by the end of the week, they have to bring the results of their work to class. The time management, we are going to do that much better in class now that we understood that the only time that the learners are going to be actually interacting with somebody else in English is when they meet us and when they meet their peers. So we're going to be adopting and changing our schedules in the classroom and assigning more time to our work and less time to written productions or coloring. We are going to be using different contexts in order to promote and generate interest, to generate, the need to know more about something. So we are going to plan more outings, let's say, or if we cannot, we are going to plan things, taking the learners from the classroom to maybe the playground or maybe the library or other contexts where learning might happen. We are going to offer the students more experiences in order to be exposed to authentic language. Maybe we want to invite other people to talk to them in English. Maybe you want them to listen more often to podcasts. If we have the little ones, maybe you want them to enjoy cartoons that are created for native speakers. Bring those cartoons to the classroom, use those cartoons in class, and send the link to the parents so they can experience that at home as well. So we need to expose the learners more to the language. Again, we're going to adopt differentiation because we learned how to do it and now we are very good at it. And the learners are moving really, really fast once we have tackled each of the things they are struggling with, and not all of the same things, right? We have being able to choose what is good for the different students. Again, socialization, we're going to create more and more activities for them to work collaboratively, not to base our teaching in individual work, but on teamwork and pair work. We are going to promote parent involvement, yes, sure, and the construction of citizenship. So there are many things we're going to take back to our classrooms from what we have learned from the pandemic. But there are some things that are really, really remarkable. The value of asynchronous assignments, as I told you, versus homework. Homework is a task that they have to complete, an activity maybe, from the course, from the activity book, or an exercise, or maybe something very, very specific that they have to fulfill for the day after or 2 days after. An asynchronous assignment means a bit more of research, a bit more of creative work, a bit more of, the passion of the learner being at stake. So we have to promote more asynchronous assignments and less homework. The teachers have become providers of support as the learners need it. So we have learned to wait for the learners to ask for help and not be there over providing, So we have learned to wait, to observe our learners, to learn how to read their body language, to find who is feeling that is he or she cannot do it, who is feeling stuck, who is feeling that he is very confident and doing beautifully, and who has the feeling that is doing beautifully and actually he or she is not. We have learned that. And we have learned that maybe we have to teach our learners to ask for help. That is great. And nothing happens when they ask for help. We just go and help them. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's no going to push down their marks or whatever. Just relax, Try to do it on your own. And if you cannot, call me. I'll go to your desk, I go to your table, we think together, and then you move on, you continue your autonomous work. We have also learned that students need to take ownership of the learning. So we need to let them create and develop without us being all, observing everything that they're doing and making comments and feedback and giving marks for that. Let them be a little bit, right? Let them do it. Maybe the flower the preschoolers are preparing for spring is not as beautiful as the flower you could have drawn. Okay, maybe for you, maybe. But for the child, it's much better to have a flower created, by himself or herself on the bulletin board. That flower becomes much more important. So the learning that is connected to that flower is going to be more enduring. The development of the learner's resilience, we need to teach them to be resilient. And therefore, we need to teach them that failing is part of a life, that they're not going to have a terrible mark because they have failed or because they could not do a certain task or because they make their mistake. We are going to teach them that from that they can learn, and from a certain activity or task they could not complete on time, let's say, on the allotted time, we are going to sit with them, reflect on what happened, see what we can change so they can try again. So resilience is really, really important. Then the development of learning outside of school. So we are going to be supporting and giving guidelines for the learners to continue their learning once they leave from the school, but not doing homework and homework and homework. No, just maybe you send them home with a question for them to think about. Just one question. And when they walk back home or when they go in the car, they go thinking about your question. And maybe when they arrive home, they want to do some research, ask a parent, a grandparent, a neighbor, for what do they think about your question? What would be their answer? If they agree or not with the neighbor's answer. And so it's something else you give them to continue the learning outside school. Authentic, powerful learning can only happen when we are engaged, active, and concentrated, flowing in the learning process. So that is what we have learned. And so that is what we need to promote in the classroom. Allow the students, right, to be engaged and concentrated and flowing in the learning process. Let them flow. Don't stop them. Don't say, okay, this is unit 10, we are in unit 2. Don't say that, right? Please, if they flow, go with them. Let them lead. Where are they going with the questions and with the willingness to learn more and more and more, right? If it becomes, your teaching becomes a question of filling in hours, then we are missing the point. The point is not to have the child, I don't know, from 8 to 4 at school doing whatever. The point is having the child engaged, motivated, concentrated, and flowing the time they need to spend on that task. And when they finish, because it has been, they reached to an answer, or if they got stuck or whatever, give them time, to rest. Because while they rest, they will be going over everything, unconsciously, of course. And then when they go back to the task, they're going to be recharged with more ideas, with a clearer mind. So rest is good. Break is necessary. A good break, right? More than 20 minutes, right? If possible, half an hour, if possible, more. Now, we have learned and we have developed the ability to modify the curriculum and contact time to ensure that learners were able to concentrate and stay engaged. So we need to modify the contact time, the time we are in contact with the learners, and we need to modify the curriculum so the learners can concentrate and can stay engaged. So that is very, very important. The curriculum is a broad idea of things that are relevant for the learners, but you are in charge. You are the captain of this ship. So you are going to decide what your children, what your students really need to learn at this moment of the year. Another big thing is to enhance the development of deep critical and creative thinking skills. We have learned that, and they have shown us a lot of critical thinking and creative thinking during the pandemic. So let's continue developing that, okay? Let's continue developing their thinking skills. We have learned that we need to spend more time and effort on understanding why learners become bored and saturated in our regular lessons and how to minimize this. So what happens in the classroom? Because when we were working online, we say, oh, it's because we are online. If I have them in my class, this doesn't happen. But the truth is that when we have them in the class, sometimes they also looked bored. They also look tired, saturated. They don't want to continue listening to you or to whatever, or going through the course book. So why this happens, and how can we change this? So it's a good topic for you to maybe reflect, maybe if you have a chance, talk to other colleagues about this and try to find out what happens in your class that sometimes some learners disconnect. In-class learning isn't better for every learner, and we have learned this, that many students happen to enjoy more and participate more and be more effective learners online than in the class. Why is this? Why this happens, right? What have they found, right? They have found something in the online teaching and learning that they cannot find in the face-to-face lessons. Again, another topic for you to observe and reflect about. We have learned about patience, independence, and connection. We need to be patient. We need to wait for the learners, wait for them to go through the learning process and come up, right, with the answer or maybe another question. And we have learned that it's very important for them for us to promote independent learning, but for us to be available for them to connect whenever they need it. So we are very, very important in this learning, in all the learning process, and we need to be available for the students, right? We need to be available, because once they tell us, okay, I need you here, I'm stuck, we have to be there to be able to guide them. We have learned how strong kids are and how resourceful they are, right? Adaptable, and how fragile our way of life can be. So please be careful. We have learned a lot about this, and we have also learned that we need to take care of us. We need to take care of what we have, right? The kids are strong, the students are very strong, but don't push too much. All right? Thank you very much. See you in our next video.